All right, very warm welcome, everybody. The highest in me bows to the highest in you. The stillness in me, the silence in me bows to the stillness, the silence, the natural awareness in you. That which is simple, uncontrived, natural in me recognizes what is simple, natural, and uncontrived in you. And together, let us practice together in a very wholesome way, joyful way. May this be a truly meaningful, purposeful, fulfilling experience together. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Very good. So warm welcome. And while we'll be sharing something today, it's the real purpose of this sharing is really to connect you with you, to connect you with yourself, to connect you with this moment. So keep that in mind as you go through this, because sometimes when we learn new things, we struggle to understand, okay, what is this? What does it mean? How does it make sense in my life? Is it really relevant? And all that's fine. But when you really come to the basics of it, it's just about connection, connecting to yourself. There's a story of a teacher who practices. Today we're going to be learning Mahasati. They're the teacher of Mahasati. And he went to the US and he was kind of touring and teaching. So there was a group that knocked on his hotel room door, and he opened his hotel room door. He saw this group of Americans. So they said, "We've heard you're teaching something." He said, "Yes." He said, "We'd like to learn." He said, "Okay, come in." So this was a religious group, and they had come to question him. So they said, "What do you know?" He said, "I know myself." "What does it mean to know? What does it mean to know yourself?" He said, "When I'm seated, I know I'm seated. When I'm standing, I know I'm standing. When I'm walking, I know I'm walking. When I'm eating, I know I'm eating. When I lift my hand, I know I'm lifting my hand. When I bring down my hand, I know I bring down my hand. When I'm blinking my eyes, I know I'm blinking my eyes. Why don't you try?" And he made them try the simple practice that I'm going to teach you today. So after about 10, 15 minutes, one of them said, "We had come with so many questions and we had come to confuse you. But we're very impressed. What you're teaching us, this is just awareness. We can't fight with this. When lifting your hand, know your hand is lifted. When bringing down your hand, know your hand is down. When speaking, know you're speaking. When listening, know you're listening. When seeing, know you're seeing. When hearing, know you're hearing." So they thanked him. And next day, some of them came back to practice some more. So when you come down to the basics of it, there is nothing here to, there's no big philosophy we have to argue with. It's just about you knowing yourself. And if you say, no, I don't agree with that, I don't want to know myself, that's fine. No one's here to convert you into anything. And so I invite you for the next hour or 10 minutes, hour and 10 minutes. That gives us about an hour and 15 minutes. So we'll have also some time for question and answers. Just to introduce this practice, I can see from the names of people attending today, some of you are already familiar with this practice. You have practiced with me before. In fact, we've just sort of completing a month of this practice. I offered a 30-hour practice invitation, and we had close to 300 people join. And just because 300 people join doesn't mean everyone practices, but but many of them practice quite regularly. And they had 3 ways to practice. They could join me live, and we had almost every day we had a practice, 1 or 2 practices every day almost. Or they could watch the recording, because the times never really match. I've always found this over the years with online sessions, that no matter what time I give, someone loves it. "Oh, that's amazing. I'm an early morning person." And someone says, "Why have you chosen that? Is the one time my children are going to school. That is the one time I'm having dinner." So you never get a perfect time. So we did have recording, and some people were able to catch the recordings. But you'll find as we practice today, it's very, very simple practice. So even if you can't attend live and can't do the recordings, you can practice by yourself. In fact, in this session today, you will get the basics of the practice. So it's one of those things that's simple to learn, but it's not enough to just learn it. You have to apply it, right? Like, for example, we've all heard that a very simple way of being mindful is to be aware of your breath. Your breath is always in the present moment, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And one of the most common, most well-known forms of meditation is breath meditation. Bring your awareness to your breath. Don't try to change your breath. Just be with your natural breath, breathing in. But just because we know that uh, it's simple, but it's not easy. Anyone who's done it will tell you it's not easy to be aware of your breath the whole day. Right? I met a monk who told me that, one of my friends, I used to be a monk for a while. So he told me that after 8 years of being a monk, he finally had one day where he was aware of his breath the whole day. It took 8 years. Then there was one day. Right? So today's practice, you will find the reason I encourage people to learn this practice is actually very suited for household life. It's suited for monks as well, and we have many monks who practice. But it's very suited for household life. Why? Because we have so many activities throughout the day. We have responsibilities, we have activities, whether you're at home, whether you're in office, you have relationships, you have things to do. Even if you live by yourself, you have things to do. And you'll find as we practice further that it integrates very beautifully with your day. So broadly, my intention for today is to give you a quick overview of what is this practice, a little bit of history about this practice. Then we'll actually do the practice. We'll practice together. I will show you how to practice seated, standing, walking, and lying down, the 4 main ways in which we practice, and also throughout the day, how do we practice. I'll share a few experiences. Like I said, we just had a few hundred people join me for about a month. And so I have a few experiences of, I invited them that I'm going to be sharing this with a new group. So would you like to share experiences? So some of them have kindly sent in their experiences. So I'll read out some of their experiences. And then we will have a little bit of time for question answers. And after that, you will have an opportunity, if you want to sign up for, to apply for it, not just sign up, to apply for a 30-hour practice invitation. So it's not a course that you necessarily have to attend, but you make a commitment that I want to give this practice. It's interesting enough that I want to try it for another 30 hours. And you can pace yourself. We've had people finish 30 hours in 15 days. We've had people finish 30 hours in 1 month. Some people are still finishing their 30 hours. They finish 15, 16 hours. I would like you to try to complete it at least in 2 months so that you give it. It's not like you're doing 1 minute a day. Take you a long time. So do at least 20 minutes or 30 minutes a day of the practice. And of course, actually, the practice is meant to be done throughout the day because the real practice is awareness. And the tool you're learning is just to help you to be aware. So that's good for now. And I made a very small presentation, which I will share with you. You're welcome to, as I'm going through it, if there's something that's not clear, you just put it in the chat. And I'll either answer right away or I'll answer towards the end, right? All the questions today will come through the chat. And we will not have verbal questions. You can just put them in the chat at any point. And you may find that sometimes other people have asked similar questions. Your question gets answered. Or even as I'm going through the presentation, some of your questions will get answered. All right, so let's share this little presentation I have. So actual awareness, introducing Mahasati. So the word Mahasati, Sati means, you could say mindfulness or awareness, and Maha means great. And the reason it's great is that as you practice, in the beginning, it feels like you're practicing, you're putting the effort, you're practicing. You're making an effort to be mindful, to be present, to be aware. But as you go along, there's an interesting shift that happens. In fact, one person messaged me the other day saying, it's like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't stop being aware. I love that. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't stop. It's like awareness was just there. It was just naturally there. And that awareness encompasses what's happening with the body, encompasses what's happening at the thought level, the mind level, feeling sensation level. It also encompasses, you could say, consciousness itself. Knowing that one is knowing, aware that one is aware. And so in that expansive, open awareness, everything kind of reveals itself. It's not like you have to read a book or rely on some other teacher. The nature of your body, the nature of your mind, the nature of what creates stress and suffering for you, and what untangles and releases the stress and suffering for you, that becomes very clear. And this is you're going beyond knowledge into wisdom. Why is it wisdom? Because now it's tacit. It's something that you know for yourself, you know directly. So that's what we're going to be learning about today. Mahasati is a practice. It's a little unusual because it's done with open eyes. Normally, when you meditate, the first thing you're told is, sit straight, close your eyes, bring your awareness inside. And in Mahasati, we actually don't close our eyes. We keep our eyes naturally open. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is that we are practicing open awareness, inclusive awareness, not exclusive awareness. We're not saying, okay, cut out sight, sit in a quiet room, cut out sound, cut out distractions, and then just be with the breath, or just be with sensation, or just be with thoughts. And we're saying, be natural, be open. So open your eyes, let sounds come, let sights come. And in this practice, we move with awareness. So I'll teach you how it's done in a moment. Some very simple hand movements are made. And our eyes are relaxed, our breath is relaxed. We're not even trying to be thoughtless. We're just aware, naturally aware. So it's moving with awareness. And there are a few reasons for this. One is we are not trying to concentrate. If you want to concentrate, you maybe should close your eyes. Concentration is easier with eyes closed. You should be in a place where there are not many distractions. But here we're not trying to concentrate. We're trying to be naturally aware. And one thing that you will realize as you go along, that there is a kind of calmness which comes through concentration, undeniable. Concentrating, focusing your mind does create a kind of calmness. There's a different kind of calmness which comes just from awareness. And it is not so easily shaken, because the calmness that comes from concentration is hard to maintain throughout the day. I know from experience, because I used to practice an hour of meditation in the morning, an hour of meditation in the evening. And I used to struggle to keep that level of awareness, that level of practice concentration throughout the day. But with this, I found it a lot easier to just in a very relaxed way, be much more mindful, much more aware, much more attentive, much more alert throughout the day. So we'll discuss more about what that is. A little bit about the history of Mahasati. This is Lumpo Tien. He's the one who popularized this practice. He didn't invent the practice, but definitely he has made it well known the way it is today. His story is that he was born in Thailand, and he, at a young age, it's quite normal for children to ordain as a monk for a short time. So he did ordain for a short time. He was very devout, very interested in religion, Buddhism. He went on to leave the monk life and became a householder. He was a merchant, and quite a successful merchant. He became quite a successful merchant. He had a small business. He was never very educated. In fact, you could say he was illiterate. He only towards the last part of his life, he learned how to read and write. So simple man, but quite successful in business. And in fact, at one point, he was the richest man in his province, because he owned many boats. And he was actually doing quite well. And he was very keen to use his money not just for himself, but for good things. So he would make donations. He would, contribute to the monks and the monasteries. He had a temple built. And whenever he had a chance, he would meditate. It's not just that he was not just interested in the outer part of it, he'd also meditate. Whenever a good meditation teacher would come, he said, please teach me, and he would learn their form of meditation. And very devout. In fact, they say one time he single-handedly built a whole building. Just several days, he just worked really hard and built a building. That was his act of devotion. So very energetic, very devoted. And one time he moved to a new town, and he decided to support not one but three different monasteries. There's the occasion called the Kathina, which is the important festival in Thailand, where you make offerings to the monks. And three different temples he supported. He gave a lot of donation. And he decided to himself become a 10 precept novice monk. Like you can actually become not a fully ordained monk, but a novice monk for a few days. He decided to do that. And while he was doing that, one of the precepts of a novice monk is you don't use money. So he told his wife, take care of all expenses while I'm a novice monk. So there was a cultural performance. And at the end of it, his wife came up to him and said, okay, am I supposed to pay these people? They've just performed. Am I supposed to pay them? So he got very angry, because he told her that for the next few days, I'm not touching money. Right? So he didn't say anything, but his face showed he was very angry. Anyway, he took charge of it and he had them paid off and everything. And a few days later, he came back home. So his wife looked at him and said, so the other day, Did you get angry? He said, yes, I got angry. So she said, then you went to hell. And when she said that, it really hit him. Sometimes when people say certain things, it really hits us. And the reason it hit him was here he was making all this donation, doing what he thought was such good work, donating to monasteries, helping so many monks, becoming a monk himself, novice monk. And his wife said, you went to hell. And he had to admit it was true. In that moment, he went to hell because he was so angry with his wife. Don't you know I'm not supposed to touch money? Why are you asking me this question? She said, why is it a wife can ask her husband these questions? Why are you getting so upset? You're not actually a monk. You're just pretending to be a monk for a short while. It's okay for me to ask it. You got so angry. In that moment, you went to hell. And something in him really shook up. All these years, I have been making donations. I've been keeping precepts. I have been, practicing meditation. But something in me still gets angry. So something is missing. So he told his wife, you're right, and I'm going to do something about this. So he sold some parts of his business, made sure there's enough money for his wife. He said, now I'm going, and I will come back once I figure this out. So he left, and he went to a monastery to practice. And he met a monk there who taught him this form of meditation that we're going to learn, where you're simply making simple hand movements. And I'll teach you the hand movements in a minute. So while he learned from the monk said, when you're moving your hand, say ting, and when you pause your hand, say ning. So moving is ting, and pausing is ning. So he tried that, but after a while, he said, I don't want to add these words. So he left the words. He just did the actual practice of moving the hands. And in his case, it didn't take long. In less than a week, he had gone through many shifts in consciousness. And you could say that, what word do you want to use? Awakened, enlightened. He said that he lost the capacity to suffer. Suffering ended for him. And the teacher interviewed him, and teacher didn't actually believe, how is it possible just in a few days? This is a person who's just come. But the teacher was very impressed. The answers he gave were very impressive. And so he spent the next few months there. Then he came back to his hometown. He taught his wife, he taught his relatives. And they also, over the next 2 or 3 years, they also achieved a very high attainment in this practice. And from then on, he began to share with other people. He would use his own boats to put a loudspeaker and announce, come and meditate, come and practice, come and learn. He'd spend his own money to organize retreats. And after a few years of doing this, people said that, in Thailand, people don't accept learning from a layperson. That's the culture there. They'd rather learn from a monk. So he said, all right, if that's what they're going to learn, then he actually became a monk. So he ordained as a monk at the age of around 49 or so. He ordained as a monk. And then he was a monk for the rest of his life, and he was teaching this practice. He was not a highly educated person. Like I said, he was illiterate. He spoke not from books, but from his own experience. So some people did not agree with him that, this is not the real teaching of the Buddha. Buddha doesn't say move your hands and keep your eyes open. And this is not. So many people disagreed with him. He said, all right, you may disagree, but I know what I found. It has ended my suffering. And so I know this is the heart of what the Buddha taught. So uncompromisingly, with a lot of integrity, a lot of enthusiasm, for the next several decades, he taught. And toward the end of his life, he had advanced cancer. They say you can tell the quality of a person's practice by the state of their consciousness as they get severely ill and as they approach death. And in that case, Luang Por Thien is a profound example for us, where despite advanced cancer, you'll actually see there are, not today, but I can later on show, there are videos of him toward the end of his life. And he's giving a talk, and he doesn't look like he has cancer. He's glowing, and he's so calm, and he's so still. And you couldn't tell this man has got cancer, advanced cancer. They'd actually taken out a bulk of his stomach and intestine. And toward the end of his life, he's looking, now enough treatments. Take me to my village. And he spent the last few days there, and his disciples came. And right into the end of his life, he was demonstrating his teaching. He kept, while lying down, he was lightly moving his hands. And that's how he passed away, with full awareness. Somebody actually asked him as he was leaving the hospital that your body is in really bad shape. Are you suffering? So he smiled and said, there's no suffering. Very fascinating. So you can have physical pain, physical discomfort, and yet you can have no psychological suffering. So Luang Por Thien is a wonderful example for us. And if it was just him, we could say, okay, this is an anomaly, this is a fluke. But many of his students have achieved very high states with this. And the reason I'm teaching it is that I have also received a lot of benefits. I don't claim to be very highly attained or anything, but I have received benefits. The main benefit is that suffering reduces. Suffering dramatically reduces. In fact, Luang Por Tien makes a very interesting promise. He says, if you practice the way I'm teaching you, continuously like a chain, awareness throughout the day, and you'll find, like many of you have been practicing with me have found, it's not just throughout the day, it even goes as you're falling asleep. It even continues during the night. When you wake up in the morning, it just takes off from where you left it off. It's amazing. You can even practice throughout the night. Awareness continues throughout the night. So day and night, Luang Por Tien says, if you practice the way I'm teaching you, it'll not take more than 3 years for suffering to dramatically reduce or completely end. And that's for the slow ones. For the average person, it'll take about a year. And in some cases, between 1 day to 90 days. So he's making a very radical promise. He's saying, if you practice the way I'm teaching, you will notice a reduction, a drastic reduction, and maybe even an ending of your psychological suffering. So that's what this practice is promising us. So now let me share with you the basic practice, the basic movement. I'm going to start by sharing a few videos which I've recorded, and then we'll do the practice together. So now first just watch the videos. Those of you who know the practice, if you want to go along with it, you can. Even if you're just learning, if you want to go along with the videos, that's fine. And after that, we will practice it together. Let me just quickly check the comments if there's anything I need to answer right away. Yeah, his name is Luang Por. Luang Por means venerable father or venerable grandfather. Tien. And Tien was the name of his son. So he was called Por Tien. Por is father of Tien. It's a way that they address people in Thailand. So now let me share this the video with you. 1 second. All right, share screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see me seated. Yeah, thumbs up, good. All right. So this is how the seated practice is done. You can do it along with the video if you like. So your hands are on your knees. You can start with the dominant hand. If you're right-handed, start with the right hand. And then you are making these movements, rhythmic movements. In the beginning, you want to just watch, you can watch. After a while, you can start doing it yourself. So now the hand turns to the side, comes up to about shoulder level, comes down to touch the belly. Other hand turns up to shoulder level, overlaps the first hand. Inner hand comes to chest, goes out, comes down, and turns down. Second, chest, out, down, and it turns down. We repeat the movements. And your eyes are open. You're breathing comfortably. Don't try to connect your breath to your movements. Let your breath happen naturally. And what you're doing here is you're feeling the movement. So feel the hand moving. Feel the hand pausing. Feel the touch. And like this, you repeat it. Again, again, again. It's very important to pause between each movement for half a second or 1 second. Just pause. And all you have to do is be aware of one movement. So like right now, from the shoulder level down to the knee, and then turning it down. And don't let your eyes fix on any one spot, because that's like concentrating. So relax your eyes, you can look around. Very relaxed way. And just enjoy something as simple as moving your hands, touching your chest. That's one way of practicing. Now let's do the same thing on the chair. So it's not that different, just showing you how if you're sitting on a chair, the same thing happens. Start with your dominant hand, and the same movements are happening again. And you're feeling the hand moving, feeling the hand pausing. Why are you feeling? Because when you're feeling in that moment, you're not lost in automatic thinking. Feel the hand moving, feel the hand pausing, feel the touch. Now, it's common for people who have meditated before to want to close their eyes. So I'm going to challenge you to open your eyes. There's a reason for this. We are practicing open awareness, not exclusive awareness. It's easier to actually focus with closed eyes, but I want you to open your eyes. And you'll understand the reason for this, the benefit of this. Maybe not immediately, but in the coming days and weeks if you practice. It gives you a different kind of stillness, different kind of calmness. Not trying to forcibly silence our mind. Welcoming thoughts, welcoming feeling. And again, returning to the movement, touch. So now another version of this will be like, this is called Vajrasana. So some of you like to sit in Vajrasana. It's the same thing. It's showing you different style of the practice. I'm actually seated on a Zen tool. You could also sit on your own legs. And eyes are open, breathing is relaxed. We're not trying very hard to focus. This is very important. You actually practice very lightly. So don't try very hard. I've got to really focus. I've got to really get this. No, it's okay, relax. In this practice, we don't suppress thinking. Normally, you've heard that meditation is silencing your mind, stilling your mind. We're not trying to do that here. And later on, you'll understand why. We don't try to run away from any experience, not even thoughts. And just enjoying the simplicity of the practice. Feel one movement, feel one pause, feel one touch, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. You can just keep doing this 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. Now learn how to do it walking, right? So you can do it at home or outside. It's always nice to do it bare feet if you can. But if the weather is not good, you can wear shoes. And I'm demonstrating a 7-step movement. So now watch, start with any one foot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 step is sideways, and the 7th step touches the heel. So again, watch. 1 step, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will be sideways, and the heel touches the other heel. Pause for a second or two. We always pause at the end to recollect what we're doing. Don't get lost in thought. Touch the heel and repeat. It's nice to do it bare feet in the grass if you can, but even at home is just fine. And maybe start with 7 steps, and if you like, you can expand to 9 steps or 12 steps, no more than 15 steps, because the aim is to be aware of every step, every movement. In this case, your hands are either to the back or by the side or in front, because there's only one movement. When you're seated, the movement is of your hand. When you're walking, the movement is of your legs, your feet. Eyes are open. Neck is not hunched down, just looking quite straight. And pause. It's very important to pause at the end of each 7 or 8 steps, 12 steps. Pause. If you don't understand this turning movement, just turn normally. Don't have to have this very precise turning movement. That can be confusing sometimes. The main thing is you turn and you pause for few seconds or a breath. And you keep doing that. So that's the walking practice. Now we learn the standing practice. So now same thing, now standing, watch what's happening. Very similar to the seated practice. You're standing, the hand turns out, comes all the way up to the shoulders, overlaps the first hand. Inner hand comes up, and this is the standing practice. Eyes are open, standing quite straight. Feet are about shoulder width apart. And the reason we have different postures is you can mix it up sometimes. You're seated, then you're standing, then you're walking. After that, we'll learn the lying down practice. Favorite for some people. Luang Por Tien said that in the beginning, you should do mostly seated practice and walking practice. But of course, you can mix it up. You can sometimes do standing practice. Before sleeping, you can do the lying down practice. Or if you're not well, you can do the lying down practice. In the beginning, it might be slightly confusing, all these movements, but don't worry, very soon, in just a day or two, you'll learn it and the muscle memory will develop. So even without looking, you'll know how to do it. Right now, also, we'll practice, so you'll learn the sitting practice. Now let's learn the lying down. So the same thing is happening as we were standing, except now we're doing it lying down. So before falling asleep, you can, while you're still in bed, make these movements. Until sleep comes, just keep making these movements. What are you doing? You're feeling the hand moving, feeling the hand pausing, feeling the touch. Whenever thoughts come, don't mind, come back to the movement. As you go along, the practice develops where you. And so now what I'm doing is, maybe if sleepiness is coming, then just smaller movements. You're just turning the hand. Not doing the full movement anymore, just turning the hand sideways. Or maybe even just opening and closing a fist. Opening and closing the fist. Or maybe, alternate fists. You can even do a single finger, moving a single finger. You can keep doing that until you fall asleep. You can even move a single foot, lift a foot up, finger down. Or maybe even single toes. That's also possible. And keep making simple movements until you fall asleep. We're learning to be aware with movements in this practice. Now, throughout the day, when nothing else is happening, you can make these simple movements. Like maybe you're going in a car. Of course, not when you're driving. Someone else is driving, and you can just turn your hands to the side. You're sitting waiting for an appointment. Open and close your fist like this. Or you can do alternate fists. You can also just simply move your thumb up and down your index finger like that. Very simple movement. And you're training yourself to, here I'm rotating my index finger around my thumb, round and round. Then you pause for a second, rotate again. Or just move a single finger in and out, in and out. Yeah. So these are some different ways in which you can practice. And then there are subtler movements, like for example, just notice for the next few seconds, eyes are blinking. So maybe every 5 seconds, 4 seconds, eyes will just blink by themselves. So you can be aware of eyes blinking. As you're breathing, notice your belly will rise and fall. To some extent, your chest will rise and fall. Now be aware of that for the next few seconds. So awareness of the body, what the body is doing, the posture of the body, the movements of the body, will lead to awareness of feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, will lead to awareness of thoughts. And in this practice, the ability to see thought, there's a difference between knowing thought and seeing thought. Normally we know thoughts, but what happens when you know thought, you get swept along by thoughts. You can't stop thinking, right? So you get swept along. If you're feeling good about something, you get swept along. If you're jealous of someone, you get swept along. You're angry about something, you get swept along. You're worrying about something, you get swept along. So if I ask you, what are you thinking? Yeah, I'm thinking about this, problem at work or financial problem, or health problem. Or I want to do something, so I'm thinking of how to solve that problem. This is knowing thought. But in Mahasati, we also develop the capacity to see thought. And when you see thought, it instantly dissolves. So you see, it's like you see the automatic thinking. You make a distinction between two kinds of thinking. One is deliberate thinking. So for example, when I had to prepare this session, I had some deliberate thinking. How much time do I have? What do I want to cover? How much time do I want to spend on each thing? I actually made a few notes. Okay, make sure that we talk about the different postures. We practice for a little while. We read some testimonials. We have a little Q&A. And that's directed thought. That doesn't create suffering. But automatic thought could be, will they like it? Am I good enough? What if I don't cover everything? What if there's an internet problem? And there could be a practical level that, okay, let's have a backup for the internet. But there's a more fear-based that, oh, what if something goes wrong? That's a fear-based thing. Am I well enough prepared? Am I the right person to teach this? This automatic thinking creates stress and suffering. So in Mahasati, we're not against thinking. We want to catch this automatic thinking. Automatic thinking, automatic reactive, unintended thought is what creates suffering in this way of looking at things. So that we short circuit by seeing thought, seeing thought, seeing thought. In the beginning, you see 1 out of 1,000 thoughts. Then you see 1 out of 100 thoughts. Then you see 10 out of 100 thoughts, 20, 30, 40, 50. And at some point, depending on our own practice and our wisdom, it gets really interesting. You start catching the deception that, this undercurrent of thought keeps going. Liking, disliking, wanting, not wanting. And there's a beautiful shift from self-image to self-awareness. Self-image is, I'm like this, I'm not like this, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm skillful, unskillful. You are like this, life is like this. This is self-image. Self-awareness, seeing things clearly. So there's a knowing of what the body is up to, there's a knowing of what's happening in the mind. And this is what leads to wisdom. And stage by stage, layer by layer, the practice unfolds. So the reason I'm teaching this not just as a quick YouTube video or an online session, teach it, because actually you've learned it pretty much. It's not that complicated. If you were to see this video 1 or 2 times, you'll get the practice. But there are subtleties to the practice, which as you practice over a period of at least 30 hours, you start getting a sense, I didn't realize there's this to it, there's this to it. Nithya mentioned, feel the movements. But I was still thinking. I wasn't really feeling, I was automatically doing it. This is what it means to feel the movement. Feel the movement. That's what it is. So there are subtleties, which is why I'm encouraging you to join me for a full 30 hours and experiment with it, even if some of you have learned it before. In fact, in this group, there are people who've already done 30 hours and they're keen to practice for another 30 hours. They've joined again. And so practice until you get a real sense of what is the potential of this practice. We say in this practice that people who've been meditating for a long time actually have a disadvantage. Normally you say, you've been meditating a long time, you have an advantage, you have a disadvantage. Why? Because in most cases, you're conditioned to closing your eyes, saying a mantra, focusing on your breath, focusing, and there's a calmness which comes from that. And for such people who've been meditating a long time, you'll actually not like this practice. What is all this open eyes? What is all these big movements? I just want to sit quietly. Don't disturb me. You'll actually not like it. But I encourage you to not be closed-minded and try something different, try a different approach. I've had, even in this session in the last 1 month, there are people written to me, I've been a long-term meditator and I'm amazed at the shift that have happened in just this 1 month. I've been meditating for so many years. And in just this 1 month, I find I'm so much more aware throughout the day. I didn't realize I had so many automatic thoughts. So there is something this practice is offering that's a little different from what other practices are offering. Not trying to say this is better, that it was. That comparisons are not what this is about. Sharing something that might be helpful. How about we practice for a bit now? So I'm going to push my camera back so you can see me, and I want you to join me if you can in practicing. So you could be seated on a chair or cross-legged like I am, and keep your palms on the knees. And let's start with the dominant hand. In my case, I'm right-handed, so I'll be turning my right hand. If you're left-handed, you can turn your left hand first. So turn to the side. Bring it up to shoulder level. One mistake people make when they're first learning is they do something like this. So don't do that. That's going to start straining your shoulder after a while. So you're not lifting your hand like this. You're simply bringing it up to shoulder level like this. Hands are not stiff. Just relax. Bring it down to touch your belly. Turn the other hand to the side. Bring it up to shoulder level. Overlap your first hand. Touch the hand. Now you bring your inner hand up to the middle of the chest. Bring it out. Down. Turn it down. Other hand, middle of the chest. Down. Turn it down. So just to help you remember, I don't want you to use accounting because we don't use verbalization in the practice, but just to help you remember, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So going in is 3 and going out is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 7 plus 7 is 14 movements. And what's interesting about these movements is you don't get tired doing them. So we've done this for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I've sometimes practiced for more than 10 hours a day, combination of sitting and walking. It's not tired. In fact, you get energized. There's no tiredness. So you don't get tired doing these movements if you're doing it the correct way. If you're doing it the wrong way, that either you're hunching your back or you're lifting your hands, like I said, you're straining your shoulders or you're focusing too hard, then you might get tired. But do it in a relaxed way, right? So why don't you join me for the next few minutes? So start with your dominant hand. Eyes are open. Feel the movement from beginning to end. Feel the touch. Feel the pause. There's a slight pause between each movement. Eyes are open. Breathing is normal. No tension in your shoulders. Eyes are not fixed on one point. You're not trying to concentrate. Do the practice lightly, relaxed yet alert. Feel the movement from beginning to end. When you're first learning, if you get into thoughts, your hand movements get confused. What just happened? But once you've learned it, then the muscle memory is strong enough. You can even get lost, but the movements continue. It's actually an advantage in the beginning. Like if you start thinking of something, you're confused. Okay, what am I doing? But after a while, that doesn't happen anymore. But you'll still find that your mind wanders less than usual. It's a very big thing that's happening, right? The hands are moving, hands are pausing. So unlike most subtle objects like breath, which is somewhat hard to follow sometimes, with this one, your mind will wander a little bit less and it'll come back a little faster. And like the breath, the movements are neutral, neither very pleasant nor very unpleasant, right? So you're accessing a state of equanimity, neutrality, neither wanting nor not wanting, nor being confused. If there are many thoughts, don't fight them. Just feel the next movement. Feel this movement. Feel this pause. Feel this touch. Don't fight your thoughts. Just shift from thinking to feeling. Again. Again. Some people like to sweep their hand across the body. It's also nice. They sweep the hand from the body. Like that's also possible. It's fine. Nothing wrong with doing that. It feels good to do that. You can sweep your hands up. In my case, I usually just place it. It's also okay to sweep it up. You just see what feels good for you. And both are fine. So for the last month, we've been practicing morning and evening, most days. Typically, it's about an hour and a half in the morning, an hour in the evening. It's not completely practice. A little bit of time is for Q&A and some interactions and reading. But most of it is practice. I would say 70-80% of it is practice. Either sitting practice or walking practice. And occasionally you can do standing and lying down as well. Some people watch the recordings. Some people practice on their own without the recording. And they keep track either personally or we have a online link. And just takes 2 minutes. At the end of the day, just track how many minutes did you sit and practice, walk and practice, stand, lie down and practice. Just to keep your commitment of 30 hours. Once you've done 30 hours, you don't have to track it. Just to encourage you to do at least 30 hours. It's just for that being accountable, being active in the group. And I would encourage a minimum of 20 to 30 minutes practice each day. You can do it in two parts, morning, evening, or just in one go. And that's the minimum. You can always do more. So why not 45 minutes? Why not an hour? If you say, I'm too busy, don't have that kind of time, you'll find that with this practice, the quality of sleep is better. Decision making is better. You're more effective at work. You're less impulsive, less distracted. So you don't lose time. In fact, you gain time. So it's an investment, not an expenditure of time. Not losing time, not spending time, investing time. You don't have to stop doing other practices. If you're into other forms of meditation or chanting or whatever, continue doing that. Just give, when you're doing this, just do this. Don't mix up this with other practices. Don't mix up this with some other chanting. Or someone said, while doing this, can I do my mantra? No, I would say no. When doing your mantra, do your mantra. When doing this, do it. Don't mix it up. Otherwise, you'll not know what this practice is. You'll say, oh, the mantra helped. So for 30 hours, just practice the way you're being taught. And after that, you can do whatever you like. Continue the way we're teaching or find your own way. But give this a fair trial because there is something here which is a little different, very precious. Feel the movement, feel the pause, see the thought, see the deception in the moment it occurs. So now you can do one more full round, complete your movements. And once you're done, just sit calmly for a bit. Be with yourself. Without making an effort, I am naturally aware of subtler movements like breath, blinking of the eyes, swallowing saliva. Sensations throughout the body. There is awareness. It is seated. What's the body up to? Body is seated. What's the mind up to? One sees a thought, sees a thought, sees a thought. And the thought doesn't have momentum then. Like you've taken the fuel out of the car. It can't go on too far. So throughout the day, Luang Por Tien encourages us to uh, keep moving. So when there's work to do, then you do whatever work and don't worry about the practice. When there's nothing else happening, then just make simple movements. So for example, opening and closing a finger. Or just lifting and dropping a foot. Or of course, as you're breathing, the belly goes up and down. Be aware of the belly. It's available to us throughout the day. And you'll find you have these glimpses of awareness throughout the day, opening a door, drinking water, drying your body after a shower, chewing food, washing the dishes. Suddenly, oh, my whole life I was doing that unaware. I did that with awareness. I opened the door with awareness. I made the bed with awareness, combed my hair with awareness. And maybe in the beginning, there's glimpses here, glimpses here, glimpses here. But these glimpses start connecting. You start waking up to your own life. It's like we were living in a dream. We were living in a layer of thought between us and our life with a layer of thoughts, imagination, preferences, wanting, not knowing, confusion. And now the fog is clearing. It's like, I'm waking up to my own life. I'm waking up to life, not even my own life, just life. I'm shifting from self-image to self-awareness. And it doesn't matter if you consider yourself Buddhist or Hindu or Christian or Muslim or Sikh or any religion, actually. The core teaching of your religion, or even not religious, doesn't matter. The core teaching, the core message, it starts making sense to you. Oh, that's what it meant. That's what Jesus means. That's what Guru Nanak means. That's what that Shastra means. That's what the Vedas mean. Intuitively, you start to understand. So that was a quick overview, introduction of Mahasati. I'd like to read out a few things that people have said who joined me for the last 30 days or so. And after that, I'll answer a few questions from you. The sense of presence of awareness has literally dissolved the mind. No more random, useless thoughts. But it's beautiful. The moment you're watching them, they dissolve. I had my first workshop ever. Could have been a moment of anxiety, horror. I was calm to the T. So she's saying that she conducted a workshop. So it could have been a moment of anxiety or horror. I was calm to the T. Nothing could shake the awareness. There were occasional outbursts of feelings and sensations in the body. I was aware of them. Just a spectator. But what Mahasati does to you is indescribable. Like he always says, you don't choose this practice. This practice chooses you. Immense gratitude. And this is Amrit. This is the other person. A learning awareness practice has added a lot of value to almost every area of my life, especially my Tai Chi practice. The best part of the practice is all day long, other than the time that I'm practicing the movement. Whatever I'm doing there are many moments when I'm becoming aware, even if for a few moments. The number of these moments are increasing over the weeks. The many jewels of wisdom shared in the live session motivates me to practice diligently. Grateful to Nithya and the Sangha. Basab Datta. Then the other person says, I used to be in awe of people who are always so aware and living in the moment. I used to enjoy their company. Now I'm enjoying my own company and I'm loving it. Thank you, Nithya, for unfolding another secret of living life fully. With Mahasati practice, I became aware of my automatic thinking. I'm more aware of my mental state. And that person was anonymous. From being impulsive to all-inclusive, rushed and hurried to not being worried, from stormy, turbulent thoughts running helter-skelter, I have now found shelter. I intend to continue this practice, for I see that is all there is. And also, I no more can say I'm bored or have nothing to do. Says Bina. Then Sudha Murari says, I have been practicing Mahasati for 17 days. Took a day for me to get the proper sequence of movements. I released the thought that it is difficult, since I usually close my eyes for meditation, and then my hands moved effortlessly, but with awareness. Also, I had carpal tunnel pain and thromboid muscle pain, but I persisted. The pain went away after a few days. I have been noticing thoughts as they come up. Now know that they are the cause of suffering and mindfully cutting the proliferation of them. More centered, being less scattered, having more clarity, being more aware and focused while doing chores, aware of my body while doing yoga, aware of the existence and the contribution of each leaf, blade of grass while walking. Also, I am now aware of the gravity of expectations I have of relationships. Mahasati is definitely more liberating, and I'm able to breathe freely in all senses. Thank you, Nithya, for the wonderful teaching, generosity, and compassion. The next one is also anonymous, I think. Please find below the brief shift that I've noticed. This is for sharing with the new batch. First is pause more to think when something annoying or an emergency situation arrives. This person says, I'm pausing more to think. Second is work is getting done faster. More of procrastination escape mechanism would have been an earlier response before Mahasati happened. So earlier there was more procrastination escaping. Now it's getting done faster. Third is seeing situations from others' perspective. Why would the other person think or do so? That comes more naturally, more automatically. Next is manifestation of what needs to happens 75% of the time. Things I'm still struggling with. Setting a routine doesn't happen, especially lately with attending calls daily. Something or the other commitments come. Anger elements and fears do prevail, but at least awareness of it. I'm now in the future, I'm now in the past. Stop it, comes a voice, slowly but steadily. Savior mode prevails, as if there is no one else to give ready-made solutions to problems around. Conclusion. Feeling indebted to have crossed paths with a human being and scholar like Nithya ji, his narrations, experiences keep giving a 360 view of why this practice and the freedom of choice he gives is super liberating. Last but not least, thanks a ton. Thanks a lot, Angel, for being the pillar of support. Thank you. And then I'm not sure if it's the same person or another person. I'm going through menopause, had issues regarding anxiety, mental fog, not understanding anything that's going on, confused, unable to handle emotions. Mahasati practice has helped me so immensely. I have become more centered, aware of my thoughts, which are temporary. Mahasati has made me experience the bliss of living in the present moment now. Acceptance has improved. Thank you for the support guidance every day, without which it would have been impossible. I think the last one is here. This is from Sandhya. During my spiritual journey, since the last 18 years, I have learned and practiced many meditation techniques. But this one has been the most eye-opening for me, as it is like having a mirror on my mind 24/7. At first, it was challenging, as the mind rejects being watched. But Nithya's relentless support and guidance, along with the deep knowledge shared through Luang Por Thien's teachings, handheld me all the time. I realized that the world that I create in my head does not exist, and that the present moment is inevitable. Intuition has increased. I can wake up without an alarm. Willpower has increased. Choices are being made, easily made, with actions taken upon. There is no muddled mind, with a lot of clarity. Anyone can do closed eyes meditation. The real challenge is facing our own mind, watching it, and cutting through all the dramas and stories that we keep reading. Good. So these were some of the things that people shared, and just to give you a small taste of some of the experience people have gone through. Now let me go through some of your questions that are in the chat. And if you have questions, please go ahead and put them. And actually, I'm going to just also share my screen. So those of you who want to join us for the one thing that this practice is, it's not just a practice you do for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's like rubbing a stick to start a fire. So the real practice is actually a 24-hour practice. So while we'll do it 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, the real magic happens when throughout the day, we are aware of the movements of our body, aware of the movements of the mind, aware of being aware. Practice continuously, like rubbing a stick to start a fire. That's how Luang Por Thien encourages us to practice. So I'll go through the questions now. And while I'm doing that, if any of you want to join the 30-hour practice commitment, then you go to this link and you fill the form. And there's a set of questions you have to answer there. If the link doesn't work for any reason, then you can also use if the QR code doesn't work for any reason, you can also use the link below. And so that will be a way you can access the forms. Now, while this is up, I will answer some of the questions in the chat. The name of the monk I've already answered is Lumpur Tian. No other activity or talking during this practice, even after mastering the movements. So I will talk to give instructions and clarify. But of course, once you've learned it, no talking is required. You just do the movements. And you'll actually notice inner talking, inner activity that's always going on. And the rest of the day, you're just going through your day quite normally and do whatever work has to be done. If you're cutting vegetables, you're aware of cutting vegetables. If you're eating, you're aware of eating. If you're sweeping, cleaning, dusting, you're aware of that. When it's very mental work, some of us are very knowledge-based mental work, then don't try to be aware of the body. That's confusing. Just do the mental work, write that email, be in the meeting. And when nothing else is happening, then come back to the body, come back to simple rhythmic movement. So I hope I answered that. If not, you can ask a follow-up question in the chat and I'll answer that. What are the significance of the heels touching? It's just one more point of touch, heels touching. Touch cuts through the thought, because when you're feeling the touch, it cuts through the flow of thought. So when we turn around, we just click our heels lightly, present moment awareness. And we pause. At the end of each path, we pause. 7 steps, 12 steps, whatever. We pause 1 or 2 seconds. Remind ourselves what we're doing. And then again, we walk those 7 steps and like that, up and down. So we take 7 steps and then touch our heels on the 7th step. That's correct. So the 6th step is a sideways step. You're walking. 6th step is not straight, kind of slightly sideways. And the 7th step clicks the heel. And then the other step comes like that. And don't worry about it so much. If it's confusing, just turn around normally and then continue again. That's just a nice, elegant way of doing it. How do we join? So there's a link here. You can use the link and that'll take you to a form that you fill. And based on that, you can join. And I'm thinking, because not everyone will be able to join the session live today. So let's give it a day. Today is the 30th. Let's start actually on the 1st. So instead of starting tomorrow, the group that's been practicing with me already, they can join me tomorrow onwards. But the others, we will start the new batch of practitioners from the 1st of August. I think that's a good way to go. I've completed 30 hours with Nithya, and this meditation is a game changer. Wonderful. Can we talk when we practice? So why would you want to talk when you practice? I'm not sure why you want to talk when you practice. So just practice when you're practicing. And if you have to talk, then stop the practice, finish talking, finish that phone call, finish whatever, and then come back to your practice. I would not recommend, like, for example, walking up and down and talking to someone. That's okay, that's nice, but it's not, I wouldn't consider it as time spent practicing. While you're sitting across from someone and moving your hands and talking to them, I would say, why move your hands at that time? Just talk, just listen. Right? So the answer is no, don't talk when you practice. I will do it because I'm teaching it. But the rest of you, don't do it. Right? Is it okay to feel sleepy? You probably will feel sleepy because that's one of the 5 hindrances. There are 5 things that come in the way of our practice. A sensory desire, you want to eat something, see something, do something, listen to music. Some people say, can I listen to music while doing the practice? No, that's sensory desire. Stay with your actual experience. There is ill will, anger, resentment that can come up. Restlessness can come up, sleepiness can come up, doubt can come up. So when sleepiness happens, you get up and do walking practice. We'll also teach you some other methods as you go along, how to deal with sleepiness. For now, what you would do is you'd wash your face or you do walking meditation. And if it's still coming, maybe just sleep. Maybe you are tired, just sleep. Right? But if it's happening every time, then that's the hindrance. And we'll teach you how to overcome the hindrance. I haven't completed 30 hours. Shall I count from 0 now? No, just keep going. Complete until you come to 30 hours. And beyond that, you can, once you get to that stage, I'll tell you what the next steps are. But it's a commitment to yourself to practice for 30 hours. Can I practice while learning audiobooks or video, or practice only with awareness? Again, I wonder, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to, when listening to an audiobook, just listen to the audiobook. Why would you want to mix up movements and things like that? When watching a video, just watch the video. And maybe it's happening that while watching the movie, you feel like moving one finger or moving one toe. All right, but we wouldn't count that towards your 30 hours. In this, the way I've presented it, 30 hours refers to when you're practicing and just practicing, right? Of course, we want to be aware throughout the day, but we'll only count. And even if that's 5 minutes, so you're in between two things that are going on in your day, you spend 5 minutes doing the hand movements, or 5 minutes walking up and down, or it doesn't even have to be all the hand movement. Just you're opening and closing your fist for 5 minutes, but that's all you're doing. You're not watching TV. You're not talking to someone. You're not reading the newspaper. That's all you're doing. That would count towards your 30 hours. So exclusive practice counts, and not practice done while doing other things. So we're separating awareness in activities from the practice we're doing exclusively. So I hope that's clear. I'm slowed and I'm sleepy. Yeah, that can happen. It's also late at night in India, so getting later. There was heaviness in my head, but now I'm feeling so light after the practice. Sure, can happen. I'm sleepy. Is that okay? So you're okay also, because probably you're feeling relaxed. That's very okay. Yeah, why not? How to join 30 hours? So you use the QR code or you use the link on the screen to join. Divine Namaste. This open eye practice was super amazing. Vibration over my crown area and some vibration in the palm. Intermittently, I was closing my eyes, that I have been doing Raj Yoga meditation. Yes, so this will happen for those who are used to meditation. Eyes will close because you're used to that. And nothing bad will happen if you close your eyes. But in this practice, you break the habit. So when you notice your eyes are closed, okay, after a few breaths, after about half a minute, open your eyes again. And there is a reason for that, because we have trained ourselves to enjoy the calmness of just closing our eyes and just getting focused on our breath or on our mantra and there is something very beautiful about that. But there's also a limitation of that. It's hard to sustain that throughout the day. So Luang Por Chien really emphasized, because Luang Por Chien did closed eyes practice for a very long time. He actually had very strong samadhi. You could actually practice for hours together. But his anger didn't go away. His defilements didn't go away. So when he taught, he said, do it the way I'm teaching you. Open your eyes and practice. And those of you who are used to meditating will not like it. you will resist it. No, I want to close my eyes. Try it the way I'm telling you. And so I invite you to try for 30 hours. And then if it's not something suitable, go back to the other practices you were doing. No one's stopping you. But while you're learning this, do it as closely as you can, the way it's taught. I sense a lot of sensation and vibration in my palm. Why not? That can happen. Looks like Vipassana. Actually, it is Vipassana. Nowadays, Vipassana has sort of become tied up with the method taught by Sri S.N. Goenka. And S.N. Goenka has done a phenomenal service of making meditation available to the world. I actually began my practice through Vipassana meditation. But Vipassana is not a form of meditation. Vipassana actually means insight or wisdom, seeing things as they are. This practice actually is a Vipassana practice. In fact, as you go along, you might find that this is in some ways more of a Vipassana practice than the typical practice we are taught in 10-day Vipassana courses, because that also becomes a kind of a concentration practice. You're closing your eyes, you're sitting very still, you're focusing on sensations and things like that. That's a kind of a samadhi practice, although there are Vipassana elements to it, and Vipassana can be born through that. Vipassana means to see clearly, right? It leads to the development of wisdom. So this practice actually is a Vipassana practice. And as you go along, you will understand what is samatha, what is Vipassana, what is tranquility practice, calming, centering practice, and what is the practice that leads to wisdom. Awareness is what leads to clear awareness, sustained throughout the day, is what awakens wisdom. Knowing the body, knowing the mind, knowing the activity of the body, the activity of the mind, knowing the disease of the body, the disease of the mind, through your own experience is what awakens Vipassana. Unable to use the link, well, use the QR code or reach out to me later on and I'll help you. Have fever and my body ache seem to have melted. Wonderful. Meditation mind gave attention to one time on one place. How are we aware when reading, listening, doing work? So questions is focus on activity or awareness? So it's not separate actually. I'm right now in an activity, right? I'm answering your questions. And I can be aware of answering your question. Why does it have to be a separate thing? So you'll realize it's not two things. In fact, one big thing you learn is that awareness does not interfere with anything in your day. You can eat and be aware, you can walk and be aware, you can talk and be aware, you can listen and be aware, you can exercise and be aware. The only thing it interferes with is your automatic thinking. It interferes with greed, anger, and confusion, ignorance. It interferes with suffering, actually. So as you practice, not in an exclusive way, in an inclusive way. In the beginning, it'll seem awkward, it'll seem strange, but as you go along, it'll feel more and more natural. And you will come to appreciate that it actually there is no obstacle. There's no obstacle to the practice. It's a 24-hour, 24/7 practice. And in all positions of the body, all states, you can actually practice awareness. In fact, the word practice awareness is also strange because you're trying to practice. Awareness is actually there. You're uncovering awareness. The language has its limitations. So get the essence of what I'm saying. You're tapping into a natural thing that's already there. It gets covered over with automatic thinking. We're uncovering, clearing the fog, clearing the clouds, coming back to the sky. Do we need to set intentions before we start the practice? If you want to set a light intention that, this is precious time and let me not waste it and let me use this time to be as aware as I can. And that's a light intention, but we actually don't have any rituals. We don't say, okay, let's bow down 3 times. I mean, I do a little ritual. I just say the highest to me, rise to the highest to me. That's my little ritual. But there's no ritual required because there is actually no start and end. You practice all the time. If you feel like bowing to a Buddha image or whatever guru you have, you feel like, well, bless me. That's something you can do if you want to, but there's no ritual. There's no expectation that you have to set an intention now and then practice. It's very natural in that sense. And if it helps you to set a slight intention, why not set an intention and then continue? Or is that what you're getting? So then let me just fix that. There's some problem with the form. So give me 1 second while I fix that. I think there's some setting I haven't looked at. So give me 1 second while I fix that. I think I didn't make the form available to everybody. So a lot of you will be getting that error. So in these moments, you said something like, how wonderful. I'm wondering where I have to go to fix that. Just 1 second. Let me stop my screen share and just give me 1 minute to fix this so you can actually fill the form. Okay, I have to figure out. I think there's one thing in Google Forms that I have to click where it's accepting responses. I'm not able to remember where that is right now. So I will just go and do that. If you can just copy the URL meanwhile, or take a screenshot or a photograph of I'll again share the presentation. And then right after this call, I'll enable the link. So you should be able to then go and fill the form. Okay, so just take a screenshot or note down that link. And let me just go back to answering a few more questions. And then we will end today's call. Problem with the link. Yes, I'll go and check that. The name suggests the theme of the practice. Nithya means forever Shanti. Yeah. The link of the recording, this will be posted on YouTube, and you should have access to revisit the. You're talking about the recording of everyday practice. I share the link of that. There's a WhatsApp group you'll join eventually, and you'll get a link of that of each day's practice, which you can then practice within the next 2-3 days. You can watch that. So good. I think most of the messages now are about the link not opening, which we'll look into. So Is there any other question? Can we practice all steps in one go, or we practice the sitting for 15 minutes, another 15 minutes in a day for standing or walking? So usually you'll practice one position as long as you're comfortable, like maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes. And then maybe change, you're getting a little tired sitting, so then do some walking for about 20 minutes. Or you can do some standing practice. Normally we just do sitting and walking practice most commonly. And that's how it typically goes. So you will typically sustain a posture for at least half an hour. Or if you're getting tired earlier, then every 20 minutes you can change. Yeah. Empty stomach. Do I need to do this empty stomach? No, actually you don't. You can do it right after your meals as well. I don't think it'll disturb you even after doing it after a meal. At what time will the call happen? So the call timing actually varies based on my schedule. And currently it's happening at 6:30 a.m. India time and 8 p.m. India time. So currently it's 6:30 to about 8 p.m., an hour and a half, and 8 to 9 p.m. in the evening. And we will, I announce the coming calls according to my schedule. So you can join it accordingly. This meditation was clearly very powerful. Looking forward, I also feel like it's doing something magical about working the left brain and right brain. Yeah, you might notice that. So awareness happens for other activities automatically. To some extent, automatically, yes. But also you can make a little effort. You can make an effort to be more aware in the different things you're doing. So like if I'm exercising, the effort to be more present. If I'm bathing, the effort to be aware that I'm bathing, putting soap or washing my body. So link, of course, will work once we reset it from behind, which will give me a few minutes after the call, and I'll fix that. How did you discover that this is where you want to be in your life and this is what you choose to do? How did you find your way to yourself and serve us with your magical, joyful, light way of awakening? Yeah, it's a process, isn't it? I think I stumbled my way. And I like where I am. So I think if you allow yourself to identify important values, what's important to you, I realized relatively early in my life that things like awareness, compassion, gratitude, joyful service, letting go, these are important things to me. Wisdom is important to me. So I identify those values early on, and I try to live my life guided by those values. I'm far from perfect. The people living close to me might say, yeah, you're right. But we do the best we can. And I think that's what being guided by those values, what's important, took me in the direction where I got a chance to be exposed to such wonderful teachers and teachings. Good. So I think for today, if there's someone sharing with me how to do it, share the file you want to share, general access. Okay, I'll go and figure this out right after the call. That should be all. Okay, good. So let me end this here now. And thank you all for joining today. We'll see some of you in the coming days. I encourage you to fill the form, and then you'll get access to the WhatsApp group where we have this session. And then we'll start from the morning of the 1st of August. And if you can't join live, you can get the recording link and you can watch that. And either you join live with me, or you watch the recording, or you practice on your own. And you keep track either in your notebook or on the link we'll send you for online filling. And you track how many minutes you're doing, how many hours you're doing. And aim to practice for at least 30 hours over the next month or two, and then decide for yourself how this practice supports you. So thank you all for joining and for being patient with me with all the challenges of the technology. We call it the coefficient of chaos. Technology has a coefficient of chaos. No matter how well you do, something that will sneak in. And we say, how wonderful. Thank you all. And let's make there's a lovely symbol called Mayurma. That's my little ritual. We end with the symbol. Take your hands up and slowly bring them down. Make a big heart in the air. And make an infinity symbol 3 times. Second is bigger. Third is huge. Come to your heart and say with me, Mayurma. Thank you all for joining. Many blessings. and be well.